Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Make Mine Mayday, the show all about Spider-Girl and her world. I'm Zach Joyner, the friendly neighborhood webmaster extraordinaire of Spidey-2.com. And this episode, we're going to be covering this is the 40th episode of Make Mine Mayday. We're going to be covering the American Dream miniseries. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, welcome. If you're listening to the audio edition, welcome as well. Thank you for listening. Before we get started, we want to give a brief disclaimer that we might be making some references to visual aids, holding things up to the camera, and the like. Also, our live comments that are made during the show if you watch us live on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. If you're watching us on those particular platforms, if you're listening to the audio edition, pay that no mind, as we will, as the years are live streamed, of course. So, without further ado, got to thank my Patreon subscribers over at patreon.com/SpideyDude Network. We got Vinkman, Scott, Phoenician, Kale, Georgia, Jessica, Catherine, Cindy, Jurgen, as well. If you're seeing on the screen, that's the ones that are on there, but we also have Keegar and Laura. Thank you guys for your support of all of our shows here on the Spidey Dude Radio Network, shows such as Amazing Spider-Man Classics, the show all about Spider-Man from the beginning. We got Clone Saga Chronicles, we got Spectacular Radio, Salby Cinema Era podcast, and coming soon, our Books of X podcast is going to be a Patreon first show where they explore the Krakoa era of X-Men. So without further ado, want to introduce the host with the most, Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, I'm not Beetlejuice, but thanks.
Well,
That's all I think about. I just think about whenever I hear that phrase, I'm like, oh, the Beetlejuice cartoon.
Yeah, I forgot about that's probably where I got it from, truthfully. I used to watch that cartoon a lot as a kid. I didn't watch the movie all that much, but I watched the cartoon a lot. Anyway, we already got some live comments. He says, I promise I'll update the Patreon graphic when I have time. So, hi, Neil. Hello, and well,
hi, Neil.
Thanks for watching. We already got a heart reaction from the Book of Faces. Yeah, really excited. Thanks again to those new subscribers. You know what I forgot to mention? I forgot to mention Voices from the Eerie, the show that gets us subscribers. So
the thing that like pretty much is the Patreon right now. Yeah.
So yeah. I am thinking of doing a thing, like a fundraising drive or whatever for to add to the website, and more on that probably next week, honestly. But hint, it's something that you wear. It's a t-shirt. I have a t-shirt design that I'm working on, so that we'll see. Also, you're using the wrong overlay right now.
I mean, I'm fine with it right now. That's fine. It's all good today.
Yeah, there you go. Bam, there's the right.
There's the better one. Yes.
Yeah, that's the better overlay. And then, my bad. All right. So thanks to Neil for being my, executive producer for who's
he's the person in the chair.
He is right now. It's either that or he's one of the old men yelling at me like the Muppets. Except he's
both.
Not.
He can be both.
He can be both. Vickman says hello, hello, hello. He has not done that in a while, so hello. Backseat drivers from the bleachers. That's you. All right. So, those of you guys watching live, hello, Kelly.
Yes.
What are we? I kind of mentioned the top, but
yeah, you already mentioned it. So we're going over the 2008 miniseries American Dream, and we get to get a little bit more insight and reminders of Hope Pym, aka the Red Queen, as most people will know her in the MCU films as Hope Van Dyne, even though very different characters. Although I have a theory, because we're dealing with multiverse in the new movie.
Quantum Mania.
I'm kind of got this like hope that we will see the Red Queen in some form, especially because we will have Cassie as Stinger, or at least she's in her Stinger outfit. Wouldn't it be cool if we saw American Dream? Who would play her? like we obviously won't see Spider Girl because Sony owns that, but
Right.
Marvel does own American Dream, so there's no reason you
Who
wouldn't.
would
And I mean, like, yeah, they've got America, Chavez for the Young Avengers, but like also though with the way that like
the
they
amount
could make
of,
it work.
the amount of love that the DeFalco era of comics gets? It's not like as overt as maybe the the Lee Ditko stuff and the Lee Kirby stuff, but it's there. I mean, Thor straight was wearing a variation of Thunderstrike's outfit in
Mhm.
Thunder.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, like
Well, I mean,
straight,
that was the point. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
I mean, they're nods. I mean, anything could happen while we're dealing with the multiverse. We've seen that in Doctor Strange.
yeah,
So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm at least assuming that we'll probably see something just because I mean, you've got Hope and you're dealing with the multiverse. You've got Quantum Realm. You've got we'll see. We'll see what they do because I literally don't know. So,
yeah.
but anyway, so we do have some news too before we start. The as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, that Marvel Unlimited is getting a few Spider Girl issues for the Spider Verse Infinity series, and first issue I thought it was going to be January or something. No, first issue came out uh this Tuesday, so 2 days ago. At the time that we're recording this, and it will be weekly. So these 4 issues will be out for the month of December. And yeah, I don't want to super go into it because that could start a rant, and obviously we will talk about it in 2024. um, so yeah, so obviously we might talk about it a little bit in between.
Kelly, rough outline of what we're gonna do in 2023. That
Oh
for the
yeah, I do, and we have space for other things other than reviewing
there
if
you
we go
go.
by my plan. And we're already working on some fun stuff, hopefully.
Yeah, we're not gonna say
Uh
it is yet until it actually comes to fruition. We have.
yeah. Well, plus I'm nervous. So
Why would Kelly be nervous?
why would I be nervous?
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, but yeah, so with this new series, it's just like a little half thing. It's on Marvel Unlimited, so you should definitely go check that out. $10 a month, or you can spend 100 and get a cool little package once a year. But yeah, no, so it is out. I don't really want to go too much into it. You can probably find my feelings all over the socials, especially on Discord and Reddit. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, obviously I'm the contrarian to this, I think, and I don't mean to be. Um, but we'll see it. It is a little different than the MC2 we know. And good thing is no mention of the Spider Verse. No mention. So yeah. So anyway, there's uh there's that. So I don't know if you wanted to add some input on that, Zach, before
No,
we move on.
I mean, look, there's some things that we will definitely be debating and discussing because it is something that we should talk about, and there was things I appreciated about the book, um, but there was also some very glaring and clear problems, and so I'm not um, as ups like I
It's
understand people
it's
being upset.
well, that's the thing. It seems like I'm upset. It's me. And that's the whole thing of like why I'm trying my best to choose my words right now because I've already kind of gotten some nasty DMs
Really?
um
Oh,
questioning what I actually know, even though um
hello.
hi. And I'm not saying that as like I'm some kind of expert. It's like I literally do, like I've recently reread these issues and had to sit with my feelings and literally write it out and literally talk about it.
Yeah.
But, sure, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get into who did that, but that's the whole situation. So like I'm not super like I said, I understand. I understand where everybody's kind of coming from. So basically, since we should just rip the band-aid off at this point, but basically, there's a few changes to this MC2, this World 982, that irk me, and they're tiny. Hopefully, they're not super into it. Although, well, I don't know. I wouldn't say being missing is tiny. That undermines Wes. We like Wes.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
like insert the clip from Mean Girls to this new guy named Jason. He doesn't even go here. I don't like him. Um,
Dude, I honestly, well, the first time I thought it was Brad, and I was like, wait,
well, no,
what?
no, that's well, see, yeah, because it's just cute blonde boy, and yeah, sure, we know May has a thing for blondes. I'm not saying that. But like anyway, it threw me off for then, and then there's another little thing that threw me off later. And it's just because, and that's the thing that I was getting questioned on, like, oh, you don't know that they actually fought together? And I was like, the whole point of Lady Hawk is that they're not called the Lady Hawk twins for a reason.
Yeah.
They are Lady Hawk. They're supposed to, that's like, read the series. Like, okay. Um, like the whole point of like, that's what makes it tragic. Like their fate tragic. Like, come on. So again, it's tiny things. I'm not saying that it's not, like it's very clear that the creative team um probably had a limited time to write this, and they do have to go through multiple. What is going on? I'm hearing
Oh, what? Oh,
I'm hearing
I don't-
noises. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
oh, okay. Sorry. No, no,
Anyway, no, you're fine. But yeah, no. So the whole thing is just it's like I know they had limited time, and they have to do so many different multiverses and so many different characters. I'm not expecting them to know everything. I appreciate them bringing in the characters they did because I think that they meant it in a nice, loving way. It's just more, um, it was more jarring to see. And I know that that's on me. It's on me for expecting, I guess, more than what was really given.
yeah.
But it's the whole, because again, there is no anger here. I'm not mad, but I cannot say that I enjoyed it. And everybody else right now is going, what do you mean? It's great. I loved it so much. I'm just glad that there's new mate. And it's like, I'm glad too. But I also really wanted it done right. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like, I'm sorry. And I know that that's on me. Like, I don't know how many times I've said that. That's what it's like. I understand I'm being like negative Nancy. I'm being a Debbie Downer. I'm excited to see where it's going. I'm not going to stop reading it. It's
No,
just more, it's just more of like,
there's
okay, here's another time where, there's these nitpicky, I mean, we all got into it on Spider Girls where the flashback with the backwards tattoo and the fact May lost her shirt. Like it's, we're
it's
so
yeah, because again, when you're dealing with a universe that has been so carefully crafted
and it was with the same team
with the
for a
same
very long time
yeah, for
in
that
comic
team,
life.
and it's always been one of the big questions, one of the big debates that was occurring even in this era. Should we bring other people in to write these books? Well, other than Larry Hama,
Yeah.
it was pretty much
Uh,
Tom.
well, there was that one issue that we don't talk about because there's a teenage girl in the shower.
Yeah.
And
Sean McKeever, who was kind of the hot teen writer, right? Because he was writing Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane and stuff like that.
and again, that would have been a great, we talked about this. had it been told from May's perspective, I think it would have been a great issue. But
Oh,
he wrote from what he knew, which was a teenage boy's mindset, and he wrote a teenage boy, and that's okay.
right.
It's
But
okay. It's just there's certain I have problems with certain scenes in the drawings that didn't necessarily have to be there. It gave no real context to what was being written in the story.
right. And
That
it
that was all fan service for no good reason.
yeah,
And I will die on that hill.
and again, so that gets back to my larger point. When you have something that's been so carefully crafted and so built together and meshed together, then the only thing that we ask is that this a similar level of care be given to this universe that was so carefully crafted. And I think that that's been something that has been a constant issue and a thorn in a lot of people's sides when it comes to the 982 universe being written by other people, or elements of the 982 universe being written by other people who don't necessarily have a love and a reverence for the characters or the universe, or they might just have a passing like, oh, I like this character. And we don't know what the editorial situation is with these Spider
I
Unlimited things.
I think you have to think about the turnaround time they're going to have if these are weekly drops.
Yeah,
So again, there is I do not the entire creative team I think is doing a wonderful job considering they're mostly on these and they have to jump around different characters every 4 to 8 issues. And of course they're mini books.
yeah,
It's about 2 books each really.
yeah.
But the issue at hand, they still have to do this constantly. I'm sure that they were given some
So,
rundown on some
yeah,
popular characters. I'm sure they did their own research. Just the timing wise, they don't have a lot of time.
no,
And again, I'm not
yeah,
mad. I'm not mad at it at all. But it's are on them. It's just more of there could have I think I expected more, or
yeah,
I expected more care. And I think there's as much care that could be during the time frame was given. And I'll put it like that.
yeah. No,
So again, no bashing, not disrespecting. It's just more, and I've said that it's more on me. And it's these little things that just I need time to get over. So by the time we actually talk about it, I'll be over it. But the whole
100%.
situation.
But right now you're getting the kind of the live reactions. It's just
Yeah.
like when I went back with the Spencer run and I reread everything on SDE. I caught things and it gave me a fresh set of eyes. It had been 2 or 3 years since I read those early issues, so it's like, okay, fresh set of eyes. I'm seeing this a little differently than I did before because I know how the story goes. So it's like going back and rewatching a movie and you're noticing little things, right? It's
Yeah.
gonna
Well, I'll put it this way. What the whole situation reminded me of, good and bad, is Endgame. I've talked about it 10,000 times. I watched the movie and I was like, I don't like it. Like it's like nothing really tied everything up. It was just a bunch of fan service and action, and then completely undoing everything that makes Steve Rogers Steve Rogers. Okay. And then walking away, and everybody's like, no, 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 no. It gave me catharsis. It was great. I loved it. And it's like, no, you got fan service, and you're happy because you got fan service because that's what you wanted, but it doesn't make sense story wise.
yeah,
And now, years later, we're finally talking about how it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
And I
Like,
think that's the issue. It's the excitement needs to wear down. I'm sorry that I wasn't so excited that I'm blinded. I That's just not me.
no, and look, I loved Endgame for what it was, but it's one of those things that it was not a perfect film by any stretch.
Go rewatch. Like, seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, go rewatch it. It's just a bunch, and it's deserved. I will put it. It's not deserved in the story it's trying to tell, but it is deserved when you look at it as a 10-year perspective. I call
Right.
it senioritis, the movie. Um,
Yeah.
and there's fun scenes. It just ultimately the story is flimsy. And that's okay. And like, too, I can't sit there and say the story is flimsy here because we haven't gotten into it yet. We're just
Again,
now doing it.
yeah,
But
it's
the
literally
little the
one.
little bits are the things that I'm going, I can't I can't sit there and get as excited as everybody else because I'm noticing this and that. And like, is
It,
this
it,
going to turn into, everything else we've seen?
and to be fair, we have a perspective of that we look at everything when we read it from an
Yeah.
analytical point of view because we know that we're going to review it at some point at some level, right? So it is different than just from a casual person that's just opening it up. And I mean, we eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff.
Yeah.
Fan,
It's
it,
kind of bad. Kind of need more hobbies.
yeah, right. But I mean, that's just how the nature of like us is,
Mhm.
as opposed to some random person that's yeah
Yeah,
that is
I get it. And that's what I'm saying. Again, no, me not liking little things that I've brought up, and it's just because it just irks me and I just can't be excited.
uh,
Or say that it's perfect and that, oh my God, I'm so happy. Like, because I literally had somebody go, oh my God, it's the perfect story ever. And I was like, did we read the same thing? So but again, it's nostalgia glasses versus it's not really, like you said, it's not really nostalgia for us because we're sitting here literally recording right now. We reread the series. Things are a lot fresher in our minds
100.
than necessarily uh, anybody else because maybe they haven't reread it in a while or they're not remembering things 100%. I mean, we've talked about this too.
Yeah,
There's it's all different stuff. And so I know that like a lot of the Discord was like, yeah, you're right, but, and I totally fine. Like, I'm totally fine to like be told, hey, shut up for a second, let us enjoy this. Cool. Because I want to like it too. I just think too there are I'm sorry that I'm disappointed in it. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Um like I'm sorry I am disappointed because I am. But we'll still see where it goes. We can things might be saved. Jason's most definitely the villain's like nephew, son,
right.
something.
Uh,
And it makes me sad.
the only thing that I'll say is that it was pretty inoffensive, and if I had
Yeah.
to letter grade, which we don't do on this show normally, but
No.
I'd be like, it's probably a C plus. Like it's not.
Well, I'd give it a B. I'd give it a solid B in terms of what it's supposed to be. And like I said,
But the,
looking into the
but
time.
what is that we would be giving everything A's on this
Oh,
show if we
yeah.
gave everything grades, and so knowing that I'm like, okay, so there's an incredibly high threshold for people like you and me that may not exist with casual fans, and that's okay. I am excited that people are excited for this of
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call the people we talk to casual fans.
yeah, and by the time we come back in 2023, the whole thing will be out, and we can, and then we'll definitely have more information. But for what it was, I'm like, all right, this is inoffensive. Now I have timeline issues.
Same. But at
Like,
the same time, I'm not bothered by the timeline as much, and I'm not bothered by the different character looks. And that's just because, I mean, okay, I'll put it this way. The last time Benji sort of aged fairly appropriately was in this series. Um Next, he was almost like newborn looking about most of Spider-Verse.
yeah,
So it's I'm kind of like I'm not super upset with him now being like 3 4 here. I know some people were saying, yeah, I think that irks me the most. And it's like that doesn't irk me quite as much. Obviously we have Pete and MJ and they look
well,
straight out of they look straight out of the early Spider Girl
Yeah.
with Pat Olaf's drawings and got the short hair and everything. But it's, it's this is supposed to, so the way this series works, it's supposed to be an anthology. And all of these things technically are non-canon, but at the same time, they're supposed to fit within the canon. Um, and I think that's the thing that's bugging me. Like, obviously, this isn't canon, and that's okay. It's just you can't market something and say, let's go into 982 because that's what's in the blurb. It is what is in the thing. Aren't you excited about World 982? This is not World 982. That's the issue that I have because
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel the same. It's not the same. And like everybody was like, "Whoa," but like I'm just so glad that we see Davida and like May seems like May, and it's like yes, May is
No,
not
wearing,
an angsty Robin character. She's not giving Jason Todd a run for his money. But
but why is also Davita wearing a potato sack? That
well, okay. Here's my thing, and this is the way I'm trying to think. Is like I was like, well, there was that time where Ariana Grande only wore oversized sweatshirts. I like wearing oversized sweatshirts. However,
for the audio list.
she would have had heels. I
Nah,
think she would have had maybe a beanie or something else. Like there would have been some finessing, some like glam. That was not glam. It was
that,
not good. So but at the same time, who's gonna know that? They at least included Davida,
right.
which
They
is better than nothing. But
yeah.
then they forgot Wes, and there's this Jason guy who I thought was about to hit up Davida. And then no, 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 no. We're talking about it was like again, I just wanted to scream he doesn't go here.
Yeah.
And I feel bad and I remember because I was like, I feel so bad about that. I do. I feel really bad about it.
So
But
yeah.
he's, he's so generic. And again, like you guys all said, like everyone said it. They're like, we thought he was Brad for a minute. It's really
Well,
saying something.
I'll say this: if you're not reading this on Unlimited, you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice because it is designed
Oh
for
yeah,
unlimited.
yeah. Don't. So one, don't go finding illegal copies. But if you do, don't expect you to be able to read it because it is not designed that way. It is a very simplistic way of viewing it. It's literally kind of like you just scroll.
It's designed for scrolling. It's the I think it's Webtoons the mag.
It's bad. I see. I don't like the format in the first place either. So that's another thing on me. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. I was just so annoyed. But no, it's not. I tried giving it
And
again.
it's
I
designed.
don't hate it. It's not Web Warriors. We don't have a girl spending most of her time in an issue in the kitchen making sandwiches. So we're fine.
When we get to Web Warriors, it's gonna be entertaining because like that's gonna be Kelly ranting again. There's gonna be a lot of Kelly ranting next year. Um, just so everybody
Well,
knows.
we don't get to Web Warriors uh
I thought you
until
said
2024. No, no, no. We finish Spider-Verse by the end of 2023 if we do things right.
okay.
Um, so so we basically will get finish this series and then we'll go into Spider-Verse. And then 2024 will be uh we'll be Web Warriors and then
And we're
oh
only
wait, no wait, I actually hold on, I've got it up. Maybe I messed up because now I'm thinking and I'm like, no, I think I did get through because I remember Spider Girls, but maybe I just wrote literally all of it. No, yeah. So I've got, you're right. I was right. Because, yeah. So, because we've got like my September episode would be Spider Island. So, yeah, you're right. No, we would get into Ghost Spider. So we would actually tie up until what is currently happening.
so,
So you're
so
right. I would get through it. We would get through all of the dark times next year.
2023, the year of darkness.
We've
Of
been dealing with we've been dealing with year of darkness. We've been dealing with years of darkness. But yeah, no, so you're right. I'm wrong. We'll see. Um, it's a uh, uh,
to use a sports metaphor that, as a lifelong Dallas Cowboys fan, I will quote Terrell Owens: "Get your popcorn ready."
yeah, yeah. Again, this is nothing we've had this year in terms of new Mayday content has been offensive. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
It really
yeah.
hasn't. It really hasn't. Like even with her being like a wasp character.
I, but I mean, yeah, she's not done anything of note. Now, granted, this is done. This is we have only had 2 issues of Slot Man, but
She's been in the background. And
yeah,
it's more we've had more than 2 issues because Edge of Spider-Verse. But she's not in that story. We're not checking in on her. She's just there.
that,
She's more like a prominent cameo, and
she's a prop. That's what she is.
she's slightly more than a prop.
Okay.
Because it's more, I would say more Miles is the prop right now.
Well, considering he has no book right now,
Yeah.
as we're
No, so she's just there. But yeah, no, in general, things are way better than what we're gonna deal with next year. It's just more of please don't. I am sorry that I cannot blindly like talk about it like it's the best thing ever because it's not because we're currently reading the best thing ever.
oh my god.
And it's all downhill from here.
All right, so the main event of the episode is the American Dream miniseries. Kelly and I are going to go. We're going to ping pong back and forth on the rundowns.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
yeah, so Kelly's going to do the odd numbered issues, and I will do the even numbered issues. So she's got 1, 3, and 5. I have 2 and 4 on the rundown.
Yes. And I did want to get a little bit into the history and not necessarily Spider Girl history, but just because it is 2008 and there are some topics here that were very prominent for 2008. And of
Sure.
course, just kind of what this is supposed to be invoking, which is very what I remember for Captain America, not Ultimate. We don't talk about Ultimate Captain
We
America.
talk
He
about
doesn't exist. He cannot hurt you. Um, but yeah, so this is kind of, invoking a lot of that feel like what makes a Captain America comic? Because as most of us know, a lot of people like to say that they're patriotic and that they know what is what, and a lot of times their own personal biases are there, for better or worse. And so Captain America always kind of challenged those biases and what makes someone like what is civic duty and what is the right thing to do um morally. And so this is kind of invoking a similar aspect, which I really enjoyed here. And then, of course, this was during 2008. So we're going to touch on illegal immigration, which was a hot topic during
yeah,
that time.
yeah,
Kind of still is in some places, but, this was a really hot button. And I am going to obviously, I enjoy how we touch on this subject here
By
because
the
I
way,
think it's done with a lot of compassion.
yes.
Okay.
Quick question: did you know that there was a variant cover for the Aranya book that we covered last issue or last episode?
With the scrolls, yes, I own it.
I did not know that there was one. So sorry we didn't mention that.
I thought I did. I thought I did. Because
Oh yeah,
there was we had the whole conversation about how they were supposed to change it and they didn't even change it for the very, because, it's not 19, it's 17, unless you're reading it digitally.
yeah, yeah.
17 part two. But yeah, no, it does exist. It's a scroll variant. They're green because of what was going on at the time.
Yes.
And speaking of which, we probably should talk about what was happening to Captain America at this time in the comics in the 616.
Yes. So pulling up my
Yeah, but at least in terms of like to bring up what was going on in 2008, because that was the first year I voted, so I remember a lot of this. There was a lot of those topics at hand. And then of course, uh, while you're pulling up the history for Captain America and the 616, I do want to make mention Red Queen is in this, aka Hope Pym, and we do get to see a little bit of kind of what makes her tick, because I don't think we fully get this story in the last time she was around in the Avengers series, in the
There's
A
some,
Next series.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Uh,
She
so I
mentionings, but there's not. It's not as explicit as it
well,
is.
yeah, like we know what happened to her parents,
Mhm.
but we don't really get the emotion. I don't think, like not fully. And so here we get behind that a little bit. So
Yeah,
as you're pulling that up, for anybody currently watching us that has not watched our Avengers episode or listened to our Avengers episode, our A Next, Hope Pym is the Red Queen here, and she makes her debut as a character in World 982, the MC2, and she was taken as a character for the MCU for Ant-Man and the Wasp as Hope Van Dyne. She's more similar in MCU to Nadia. I believe her name's Nadia in 616 Ant-Man. But here uh, it's Hope, and Hope has had a very different life. Although when we get to her scenes, I'm going to bring some stuff up just because it does remind me of the character in some ways that's on screen.
Mhm.
It's just very different lives, which again, multiverse, full
yeah.
circle. But basically, that is the character, so she does exist here, and this is where she came from.
So this is to go to the Captain America stuff. During this period of time, during the publishing history, is when we get Bucky Cap. So
Lucky cat.
Bucky is now Captain America, and has been Captain America now for looks like I think 6 months. So we're getting through his first arc as the new Captain America.
So we had just dealt with the death of Captain America in the 616, which of course we had a death. I mean, well, really did die here in Spider Girl, but we've kind of dealt with his death and then actual death twice in this
Yeah.
in this world. Yeah, and hi, Pete. Chi-Town has left us a message.
Oh,
Um,
hey, Pete.
going back to it. But yeah, hi Pete. So with that, I think we can go ahead and start. Also, too, the art in the interiors is different because it's done by Todd Knock.
Yes. Who
So do need to talk about that. So it's a
now
different artist.
our good friend of the show. I can say that because he makes at least one cameo appearance almost every episode. But Ron Friends does the covers,
Mm-hmm.
does not do the interiors. But
Yeah.
Todd Knock and this team would team back up with Howard Mackey to do the Clone Saga miniseries that comes out a year after this was published. So this was their first collab together. That was what I was looking up to double check what year it was, which was
Oh yeah.
I thought it
Yes.
was 2009, but I couldn't remember. So I didn't want to say the wrong one. But anyway, that's completely irrelevant. We have Todd Knock doing the interior. So without further ado, Kelly, you want to give us the rundown of issue number 1?
Yeah. So info, it was cover date July 2008. It was on the shelf May 7th, 2008. And writer is Tom DeFalco, penciler is Todd Knock, inks Scott Klobush, colorist Rob Bro, letterer David Sharp, editor Molly Laser. And now these all go for the entire series, so we don't have to redo this. But just since we do have a little bit of a change, I do want to make sure everyone's mentioned. And of course, cover credits is Ron Friends and Scott Koblish. So the title of issue 1 is Shattered Dreams. Shattered Dreams starts with glass literally shattering as American Dream busts through a warehouse window on her motorbike to bust up an illegal firearm trade that's going on. She makes quick but fun work out of securing the warehouse and disabling the goons, helping Lieutenant Grafton with this on her way to lunch with a friend. As the SWAT team comes in, Grafton mentions not so subtly that Dream jumping in kind of puts her men in a place of having to report their inaction to her captain, and that Dream's help can seem disrespectful because it kind of really was impulsive, more so than anything. All is forgiven, though, when the men find a WMD and Grafton apologizes, citing it's been a bad day. As Dream drives away, a woman calling Dream La Americana is calling out for her attention, but Dream doesn't hear her. 17 minutes later, Dream gets to the New York Institute for the Arts, waiting for Thunderstrike, but is a bit confused when she sees Kevin Masterson and his friends, making note of the brunette with the puppy dog eyes, Maria, who I believe we met last time in J2. And we also get names for his other friends, Leonard and Candace. Can't speak anymore. Anyway, Kevin notices American Dream driving away and tells his friends he needs to get something from his locker and he'll meet them at the restaurant. Maria teases him about if they'll finally get to meet his mystery woman, and Kevin hopes so. Dream stops in an alleyway, embarrassed that she misunderstood Thunderstrike's request for lunch, and she didn't bring anything to change into. She assumed he meant they'd get a bite to eat and then go on an afternoon patrol. You know, normal things. So Kevin finds her, and Dream has to own up for the misunderstanding, but drives away as Kevin tries to talk to her about trying to salvage the day. American Dream sees herself pretty pathetically. She remembers that Thunderstrike, like, she rarely ever remembers Thunderstrike has a secret identity, and she can barely remember when she hasn't been in some kind of uniform or been out as Shannon Carter. She wonders what that says about her. As she's driving back to the mansion, we see a red winged wasp robot tailing her. Red Queen and Ion Man, aka the rest of the Revengers, is out to get revenge on the Avengers and knew that if they sent their bug out after hearing her help with the police raid, they'd be able to trail her. Red Queen sees Dream as a glorified gymnast and kind of the weak link to the Avengers because she doesn't have superpowers. You know, American Dream isn't a super soldier. The Revengers plan to find a way to execute Dream to send a message to the Avengers. As Dream pulls into the mansion, she thinks back about the last time she really saw herself as Shannon Carter, and that was when she was a child. Her dad was a police officer, her mom was a teacher. They were a typical family in the Midwest, the American dream, until their car accident. Her parents died in the car accident, and she chooses to believe that it was instant and without pain. As for Shannon, she was trapped for what she felt like was a million years and another million years in the hospital. Also, just side note, the entire series, um, Shannon just keeps giving like decades and million years for what should really be like maybe a few months or days. She Her sense of time is really messed up. Anyway, I just want to it's a thing I noticed rereading this. But after another million years in the hospital, as she says, they were trying to find her next of kin. They were able to find her aunt Peggy Carter, her father's cousin, and she had never really met her Aunt Peggy until after the accident. But eventually, she learns that Peggy Carter was the family celebrity. Peggy had worked in the Avengers mansion for years and had met Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, everyone that was an Avenger. She wouldn't know, she really doesn't know what would have happened to her had she not met Aunt Peggy and Aunt Peggy taking her in. Shannon gets to her room and realizes that even in the most expensive building in Manhattan, her room looks like an army barrack. She moved in over a year ago and still has most of her items in boxes. And again, she wonders what that says about her. The next morning, Shannon gets dressed in her Avenger tour guide gear, feeling pretty good about her morning after getting up at 6 in the morning and her 2-hour workout, that's pretty intense. As she's leaving her room, she thinks about how her Aunt Peggy's connections got her this job right out of high school. And while she doesn't really need it anymore, it's an excuse to walk around the mansion without her mask. So she's still pretty okay with it. So a while later, as she's ending her tour, one of her tours for the day, the girl we saw before that called her La Americana asks how someone like her could call upon the Avengers for help. Shannon tells her that if it's a serious problem, she needs to notify the police and or the Avengers hotline. But since Shannon's right here, she can talk to this woman and ask her what's going on after the tour is over. Shannon takes Sophina, which is the girl's name, to a lunch area, a cafeteria, and offers her some coffee. Sophina is asking the Avengers for help because she can't find her fiance, Marco. She can't go to the police because Marco is in the United States illegally. And Sophina asks Shannon if La Americana would help people like her, aka an illegal immigrant, or does she only fight the evil masks? Shannon tells Sophina that American Dream helps people like Sophina and Marco. She just helps people. Later, as American Dream gets suited up, she goes over the details that Sophina told her that Marco had learned of a way to fast track his citizenship, but when he went to go learn the details, he never returned home. Sophina also claims that others have disappeared. So, is someone targeting illegal immigrants? Since Dream needs to meet up with Lieutenant Grafton about the bomb earlier, she wonders if she'll help Dream find Marco. Meanwhile, the lieutenant and her bomb squad find that the bomb isn't a bomb, but a high-tech carrying case for something or someone, as a a blue glowing translucent hand, bone and all, is seen grabbing a bomb squad officer. American Dream gets to the base just in time, and this is the New York, the NYPD bomb base. It's something. It's not like a military base. Just she gets there just in time to see this crystal monster attack, like I said, attack the New York PD bomb base. Dream battles the monster and asks the officers to call the Avengers. Uh, as Red Queen's bug watches on as the Avengers watch Dream to find as Dream is trying to find a weakness against the crystal monster. American Dream keeps trying to beat the crystal monster down to no avail, but we all know she's not one to give up, not when lives are at stake. She keeps trying until her body gives out and the crystal monster walks away as Dream passes out. To be continued.
I don't have terribly much to say about this first issue, although it really does grab you. I'll say this a lot about Todd Knox art. He's one of my probably top 10 favorite artists in general. I love when he does Marvel work, particularly. He's also done some great work like on Young Justice and stuff like that. So Todd Knox always a top notch guy for me. Also,
I like his art. I did notice that it's not as, I think it's almost slightly jarring. Like if you read the Gwen Stacy series and then read this, because so many faces look the same but different because it's been so long.
right.
I did just want to make a mention of that because I was almost like, oh, that it's there has been, years and years of more practice, because there are some times where the lips are a little awkward in this series. But it's, again, this came out 2008. Not something to pick.
There's definitely a style.
Yes.
And if I could describe it to people, it's very much in the vein, similarly, of Mike Ringo, in terms of like a cartoony humanist style.
Yeah.
And
it's a I almost want to kind of call it like Americana, in a sense that it's very invoking of, kind of more your like 60s style. But it's a 60s comic style. But again, this is where he's kind of refining it here versus like what we know and what we see now. Um, Everything gets better. I still enjoy his art. It's just something that I noticed kind of going back on it, going, oh, there are these minor changes and updates and growth. I should say. Not that I'm an art critic, but because it's cool. I'm mentioning it in a cool way, just because, like I said, it's mostly the lips. The lips are different.
No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Scott Koblish's inks are great on this
Mhm.
throughout the entire series. I think he's really good with both Ron and Todd on this book, and
Yeah.
I want to get that kind of in there early because I have some bias when it comes to Todd Knock because of the whole last issue of Friendly Neighborhood thing.
Oh yeah. No, I mean love. I mean, to me, I think one of the prettiest things Todd Knock ever drew was the baby May, Mr. and Mrs. Spider-Man and Spider-Man Family, which we will talk about.
Yes,
It was
yes.
very, very pretty.
Um,
But like I said, it's not trying to sound negative Nancy again. It's just more like the critical eye of, oh yeah, I've noticed that there's these actual differences, versus like what today is. But of course, it's been what, 13 years.
yeah, good
So
lord.
that's a, you know things change.
Man,
People. It's just weird because it's the style we know him for, but there's little changes over the years, and it's
great.
going back and seeing that, and I mean, we've talked about it, the different changes, in Spider Girl as well. So just bringing that up, that it's like it is different. It is a different thing.
Yes, yes.
It's the same but different. So like it might feel a little uncanny valley at times. Because you're like, wait, this isn't quite as defined. But it
Yeah,
is. It's just
that's
it's
the second
13
time
years difference. Yeah.
I've heard the phrase "uncanny valley" today. So, um, yeah. So again, I like the setup of the book. I like that she's getting this focus because she is a next developed a lot of Cassie, and it felt like that of the big three of MC2 that Shannon hadn't really got the chance to develop as much as, say, obviously May is the one that gets the most development because she has the longest running book. But Cassie got a lot of development in A Next, and so this is kind of letting Shannon get that spotlight. So I'm down for it. This is my first time reading this, so yeah, it's definitely a fresh perspective. I really, really enjoyed it as I was reading. I actually read this the same day that um, the Marvel Unlimited thing came out. So
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, yeah, and like I don't, again, like you, I don't have a whole lot to say because this is just setting up the story. But it is a lot of fun to get to have Shannon's origins, because like we knew she, you know, we knew she was a Carter. We knew that she really wanted to invoke Captain America. She wanted to be that legacy for him in this world. And we knew that, she wasn't a super soldier. Um, so everything she did was by grit and determination and sheer willpower. And what that kind of makes as a character and as a leader, because sometimes she is headstrong and impulsive. Uh, but we love her anyway. And so, like, again, we kind of get to see things from her perspective, which we've rarely been able to truly do. So it's really good insight. And then, of course, we do have to mention it's really cute how Kevin, because like there wasn't really an established thing, I don't think, at least not from like May's perspective of Thunderstrike and American Dream. So this is kind of our first chance of having something fairly more established here, because it's Kevin's trying to get her to come out and go on, not necessarily a date, but like meet his friends, like his actual friends. And you have to love it because like she's so oblivious, because she lives and breathes and eats Avengers. It's Avengers everything, and she totally like heard, yeah, let's go out to lunch, and go, oh, okay. like this is my flirting. We go battle for the afternoon, not actually sit down and talk.
It's true though. I mean, it is true. And look, this is picking up on like when Kevin came back, how relieved.
She was super, she cares for him, but it's just her brain. It's so Avengers. So, she's definitely not like perfect.
No, no, which is really you could have easily done with American Dream. So, all right, so that leads us to issue number 2, July 2008. The on shelf date was 5 of 20 of May 21st of 2008. So that means it came out just 2 weeks after the first. So going back to how these miniseries have gone with the MC2, the last couple have done double shipping. So you got not just American Dream number 1, but you got number 2 in the same month. So I like how the autocorrect made Tom DeFalco to Tom DeFalcon. And
So I didn't put the autocorrect on, so I don't know entirely what happened at some point this week. So yeah, no, I'm sorry.
In my headcanon, though, that is the writer of Peter Porker. In
Oh
Peter
yeah, that's fair.
So that's my new headcanon. All right,
That's
so.
fair.
Our issue opens with a big old splash page of Jarvis tending to American Dream while the Avengers come to see what has happened. Saberclaw, not Saberlaw, is annoyed by the fact that they should have been called despite Dream's insisting that she will be fine. Insisting that she did follow protocol by alerting the NYPD. They were supposed to alert them because they were a little miffed, like, why didn't you come get us, buddy? We also see that Catherine Power has been helping coordinate with the detective that we met last issue. So Catherine shows up just as she's saying this and says that that there's a problem outside. Maria Hill makes what I believe is her first appearance in Earth 982, telling
wasn't she, or was she mentioned? I thought she was in one of the issues with Venom.
I thought that was Val.
It is Val, but I think Hill is mentioned or at least shown in passing.
Yeah, that's right. Maria Hill was shown in passing. This is why we have Kelly, the expert.
I'm not great. Like, my memory is not always the best, but like, I do believe, Maria was,
Between Kelly and Venkman, they usually confirm when I'm wrong. So if you're an audio listener, you should just join.
It's again, Maria gets more of a prominent space in this mini, but she has been mentioned and around. We know that she's been here, and clearly she's got the Shield logo, even though they're not. They're never fully called Shield in the MC2, are they?
Which is which is kind of odd. So like,
no, governments change their names all the time. After like international incidences, they have to rebrand.
That's true. Yeah, and considering the worldwide incidents that probably have happened, Shield had to be disbanded for some reason.
So again, Maria is here. She's not happy. I'll let you continue.
She's there to tell that the Avengers need to stand down, that they'll call when they need muscle. They protest, but Maria kind of makes it clear, just stay out of the way, and she's being very, very aggressive for reasons that we will find out later. Dream then calls Detective Grafton, who is also being stonewalled and is very, very annoyed by it. Strike asks the question that everybody wants to know. Now what do they do? Well, what do heroes do when they don't have anything better to do? They eat lunch. That's right. We get to see what they have to eat at the
biggest burger ever on JP's plate.
Saberclaw eats meat with his hands. Catherine has a salad. J2 has like 3 trays, a burger and a steak. And like Kelly just said, the burger is literally the size of his head. And if you know how big J2 is, that's impressive.
And he's not changed. Like, he is in J2 form.
Yeah. So like here's my headcanon. So like that they have those food eating challenges. Like from where I'm from in Amarillo, they have the 72-ounce steak, right? Where you pay $72 and you eat it all in an hour, all the dressing and all the other stuff that comes on the plate, then you get it for free, right? I just imagine like Man versus Food being like, okay, we're gonna make just a J2 burger, and it's like a local eatery challenge at the vendor's compound, and if you can eat it within an hour, you don't have a stroke.
That's exact. You know what? That's exactly. I bet you that's exactly what it is. There's a J2 burger, and you can get it on the tour, and it's a challenge.
There we go.
And the challenge probably started from Thunderstrike and J2 having eating contests.
That's probably exactly right. My Asgardian metabolism is better than your mutant metabolism. All right, so
I'm just saying. Again, we have to remember, because, like, I will say, America, this mini does a great job at us forgetting that these are not. I hate calling them a bunch of idiots, because they're not a bunch of idiots. Like, they really aren't. But there are a bunch of idiots, and we love them with our whole heart, because they are like I've called, like, they're family. They feel like family, and of course, family is not always perfect. So we get a lot of sillier moments with them.
Yes. So, it's much. What if the Avengers were like the Fantastic Four?
No, it's what if. Well, yeah, but also what if the Avengers was like the Friends sitcom?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's perfect. Anyway, so yeah,
Justice for J2 hashtag, by the way. Also, Blue has virtually the same identical meal, except that like not J2 sized as J2, which I gave a little side eye emoji.
I mean, look, she needs a lot of food.
She eats a lot of food, but also like she has a crush on J2, so like she's doing the same thing. That's why I did the side eye emoji.
No, yeah, well, yes, but she's trying to hang.
You can say the same thing about me and Kelly. I'm her idiot.
No, I mean, I'm an idiot, so we're all good.
We're
all a bunch of
idiots. All right. Together, they debate the situation while dining, while Dream, as they're having this discussion, flashes back to her life before, where she was bound to a wheelchair. She is told that she needs to keep fighting, and that Dream doesn't feel like she can. She just doesn't feel like she can walk, and her aunt is giving her, like, look, if you're not gonna, do it, it's okay, but here's something to pass the time. And she gives the diaries. And so this is where she learns about Sharon Carter and her boyfriend, Captain America, how no battle was ever lost and to keep fighting. This inspires Shannon to keep fighting to walk. It took her a long time to do it, but she never stopped believing in herself. And eventually she was able to start walking. And while lost in thought, she realizes that she's made a decision. She's going to do the right thing. What she feels like is the right thing. They'll follow the government's guidelines. And she gets up and leaves. The reason being is that she's wanting to let them have their griping space. And of course, Saberclaw has to make a smartass remark because it's Saberclaw. But Kevin goes after her, and Dream thinks that he's coming to argue. But in reality, he's trying to reschedule their lunch date and maybe date? Question mark. Dream, of course, brushes it off and goes into her quarters. The truth is, she does not see him as Kevin, but as Thunderstrike. And she wonders if it's because of her commitment to excellence that maybe it's overshadowed who she really is. This internal debate has to wait due to our hero having to meet Sophina. So she changes in some plain clothes, remarking that plain civvies, remarking that she needs some new clothes before showing up. If she knew May's identity, I think they could go do some shopping together.
I mean, it's what she's wearing was very dated. I don't know if you realize that dated for 08. It was probably maybe 2004 clothing, it looked like, with the embroidery on her bell-bottom jeans. Because by 2008, we were getting into skinny jeans.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was a start. It was the start of the skinny jean.
Yeah, I had some skinny jeans in 2008, and my lack of buttocks Actually, it made it look halfway decent until I split my pants down the seam at work, like a comedy, because that's my life. It's just a giant comedy. Anyway, so she plays it off like she's just the tour guide, coming across as the tour guide because, quote, Dream sent me to do the legwork, is her line to, separate herself from the situation. Shannon asks for a photo, and we see her Marco, the man she was due to marry. Meanwhile, Red Queen is still stalking the mansion, and Dream requests to meet all of Marco's family and friends. Red Queen is thinking that she's using all this tech to get her answers, but this is all juxtaposed with the fact that she's just doing this grunt work herself, talking with people. And Dream goes,
yeah,
it is kind of hilarious. Like, Red Queen is like making up all this high level stuff, and it's just Dream, talking to people.
Also, like, Ion Man, like, straight up has some kind of demented crush on American Dream.
I mean, to be fair, she's a highly attractive woman. So
look, it's fine. It's really funny because she's just sitting there the whole time going, but I get to kill her, right? I get to. Me. It has to be me. And like Hope doesn't care. And she's just like, she's like, you're gonna have to rob 3 banks to make up for the stuff you damaged. Like, calm down. I gotta watch this. Like,
she's got to watch her Truman Show like television. So she plays off that she's just, wait.
yeah, sorry. We see Dream doing her recon, not recon. She's doing her research, and she's talking to Sophina and Marco's families. Yeah.
So Dream then goes out and patrol, being flanked by Queen's bug, kind of lost in thought because she's at the, she thought she had an opinion on illegal immigrants, and until she sat down and talked with people and got one-on-one, she realizes that maybe her stance is not nearly as black and white as she was led to believe. Dream goes out on patrol, eventually heading to a warehouse on the docks where she encounters some heavy resistance. Queen trips the goons off by shining a literal light on the subject, aka our hero, causing that heavy resistance to notice her. So she was like trying to be stealthy, and because Red Queen couldn't help herself and needed to illuminate the situation because she got lost in the sewers.
Because Hope is jelly.
What's that?
That Hope is just jelly.
Yeah, Hope is very jelly.
Yeah, she's very jealous.
Dream notices that there's a disconnect between the two situations, between the obvious bug and like the mercenaries that was spying on. So she's doing that. She's noticing that between the dodging all sorts of attacks because just as she's about to get the upper hand, 2 big giant crystal-like baddies emerge, and she ducks and dodges their attacks, thinking that she's definitely outgunned. Speaking of guns, our hero grabs a rifle, and instead of shooting them, she uses it as a baseball bat to smash over the head of the crystal goons. The other goon throws a literal crate, and as somebody that uses and deals with crates every day, I can tell you that's highly heavy. Dream dodges it to ensure that it hits the other crystal goon. She then decides to use her shield to knock her and the other goon into the water. The mercenaries think it's a good idea to shoot in the water, which it's not. While Red Queen watches on and remarks that the crystal goons are how she will destroy the Avengers. To be continued. So, Kelly, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I quite enjoy just, at this point, Hope and Ion Man are just kind of very, very silly.
They very
silly.
They're the equivalent of the old men in the theater, yelling.
They really are, and that's really how they play off this whole time. It's cute in a weird way, weird demented way of theirs. But I really like, as I said earlier, I like the callback to kind of almost a nostalgia-esque viewpoint of Captain America and the Captain America comics. And and I wrote like whatever prior that was we're not going to talk about Ultimate, but so one of the things that
Was
you
this
you glanced over a little bit, huh?
was this the same era as that horrific miniseries where the ultimate Red Skull was Captain America's son?
I don't remember. I just remember how utterly like honestly racist and
What do you mean that?
like the character was racist, and of course like the big chesticles. It's that no like legit like Ultimate Captain America, early Ultimate Captain America was really jarring because it was kind of like, oh, let's update the soldier. But the thing is that it almost missed the point on who Steve Rogers is, because he's
Mhm.
not. I guess the best thing is like you want every soldier to be Steve Rogers, but the issue is that even Steve Rogers had issues in a you know different times in America because his values did not always meet what the government was telling you. And of course, a soldier just does as they're told.
Yeah.
And so I think some of those things were just missed there. And so that's what I'm saying. Because like there was like what I remember vividly is like the shoot 'em up guns, weird like super soldier mentality and that's just not how I see Steve Rogers. So it was just
No.
jarring.
Yeah.
And there was just not it didn't age well. I'll put it that way. And there's a reason they don't like honestly, the only good thing that came out of Ultimate was Spider-Man. Let's
Yeah,
be fair.
I enjoyed I enjoyed the first two miniseries for what they were at the time, but they are
Yeah.
much of what they were at the time. And I
Yes.
really enjoyed it more when Bendis wrote them than when Malone.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed. Well, agreed. But like I said, the only thing that had any kind of lasting impact ultimately was Ultimate Spider-Man.
oh,
But
100%.
we'll maybe one day we'll talk about the ultimate situation. But anyway, um, I really enjoy this, and like one of the things that like reminds me and kind of invokes what I know of like classic Captain America is the whole immigration situation here. Because that was again a hot topic in 2008. It still kind of is. It's been a hot topic for a while, but it was a major talking point in the news at the time, that I can remember. And so for us to kind of sit in Shannon's world and see this from, we get to see, I guess the best way is like we're putting a face on the immigrants here. So we get to see the story of Safina and Marco. And when Shannon dresses up in her civvies, looking like she walked out of 2005 Limited too, um, she, you know, she goes and she sees them, and we see how they live, and we see their culture and their neighborhood in a little bit. It's not done like super in your face, but we get to see a very not real, not it's fictional. It's obviously a comic book, but like we get to see a kind of a more compassionate and more down to earth viewpoint of them. We see them as people. We don't see them as a character. And we don't see them as the boogeyman or whatever was going on at the time, which I don't think at that time it was as bad as it was currently. Um,
No, no,
but
the
you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
we're seeing them from that viewpoint. So like if you're a younger kid or a younger teen during this time frame and you pick this up,
Mhm.
y- while like obviously this is a sympathetic viewpoint and maybe you're not around that or maybe you feel slightly differently. The thing is that you still can read this and see them as human and still have compassion for them,
Mhm.
because there is compassion here. Clearly this is telling you a story that these it's weird because this story doesn't really like super touch base on should they be here or not, but it's just more of these people are here in this country and they're here for the American dream. Um, and it, Shannon can't just let them go missing or have something bad happen to them because that's not her. You know, it's she's here to protect everyone. That's what an Avenger does.
Yeah.
That's what Captain America would do. And that's kind of what we're seeing from her. And so like that's one of the main like highlights I have about this whole story. Beyond just like Shannon's origin, like her, I mean, she had to relearn how to walk and then became one of the best gymnasts you will ever see. And, got trained by Clint Barton. Like this should not be like the thing is like this is all from her sheer like will and determination. She doesn't have a super soldier serum. She didn't have surgery for bionic legs.
She didn't have a ring of power that's powered by sheer willpower. She just lets her willpower come through.
Exactly. And like, we don't know what was broken, what got hurt, how many plates and screws are in her body from this car accident as a small child. Um, I obviously it's not my story, but I have a friend who had to relearn how to walk again after a bad car accident.
Mhm.
And it's not an easy road. Another point is like I love how Shannon said it took her a dozen decades or like whatever. It was something really stupid. She well, I know she's just like it's kind of like how somebody just says it and it's like almost hyperbole, like it's just not that's not a thing because
Mhm.
she's clearly not like 100 million years old. But that's how she says things, and it kind of shows off her impatience too when she says stuff like that. And see,
100%.
we don't ever really touch base on how impatient Shannon is. Shannon is impatient. She is impulsive.
Yeah.
Love it when she tries to sit there and tell May she's impulsive. Um, don't jump in. Then Shannon jumps in. But it is though. Like, like between Cassie, Shannon, and May, like they're all just screaming at literally everyone in the Avengers is just screaming at each other. Like, you can't do that because I want to do it first. Like,
Yeah.
that's literally it. Like, you can't run off. I've got to run off. That's
First.
yeah. So but again,
Oh, at the Spider
it
Network with each other though, like when we're all together, like we're all yelling at each other, saying we not. Well, it's mainly Neil that we're yelling at. Let's be real.
I don't yell at Neil. I don't know why you guys yell at Neil. That's wrong.
Neil yells at us first. To be fair, he yells at us first.
Sometimes it's deserved.
Depends on who he's yelling at.
Okay, yes, yeah, it depends on who. But anyway, yeah, no, I again,
Let,
I really enjoyed that kind of focus on bringing the issue to the readers. Yes, yes. But yeah, no, I enjoyed like having the issue with the like this really hot button issue being shown to the reader with compassion and care. Um, and showing that there's people and there's families involved in it, and when you're talking about this as a topic, you make sure that you remember that they're people, because especially us in today's society, sometimes the news likes to forget that certain uh certain groups are not people, and we need to get out of that because it creates um a lot of hatred. So anyway, like I said, I just like that. And then of course I did say seeing more monsters is concerning, because we thought there was just one. There are
yes.
more. Um, Also, like we'll talk about it later as we find out, but these people aren't really made of silic. That's They're not made of crystal, but we keep having to call them crystals, and it keeps bugging me because they're actually genetically something different. So anyway, uh, with that, I think I'm done. Is there anything you really wanted to touch base on with this issue before we move on?
Not particularly with this one. I think it does a pretty deft job, like you said. I think you've covered everything that I would say. It does a very deft job of highlighting the situation and giving it a much different light than what we were seeing at the time, because it was very, very, very
Wow.
contentious.
It depended on what you were watching. Uh,
That's
Even
fair.
back then, depending on what you were around and what you were reading. Um, it's just, I will say it was a lot less than what we deal with now, because now everything is a team and everything is two-dimensional, and that's never the case. And kind of like it's like kind of like the whole thing where people get really mad at and go, comics can't do like She-Hulk. Let's talk about She-Hulk. Where everybody like because it literally was making fun of this, where people were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that they did this. This woke leftist, blah blah blah. Can't believe that they made the Hulk a woman. It's taking it too far." Even though we know in the comics She-Hulk has been a character that's been around. But they made fun of it and stuff like that. And the thing is, people talk about they're like, "Oh, but I don't want my comics all political." Captain America's always been political. Most of these comics have always had a political undertone in some way, shape, or form, especially when it comes to human rights.
Um, Now I'll say this: in the
You know.
60s, 70s, and 80s, maybe it was a little more subtle.
Okay, well,
But
I don't think so.
yeah, but
I disagree. I think this is pretty subtle.
no, this is definitely in that. I would say this is in that very same vein. Um, of like that type of a type
Well,
of.
yeah, but I mean, like what I'm trying to say though is like you see so much now, thanks 4chan, about like everybody hating on Captain Marvel, everybody hating on She-Hulk. Uh,
People that hated on She-Hulk never a a lot of the hate that I saw.
I enjoyed that She-Hulk made fun of them and they didn't realize it.
Um, a lot of the hate that I saw, there was like three different categories. Category one, they didn't know that there was a She-Hulk. Category two, they knew there was a She-Hulk, but they never read a She-Hulk comic in their life, whether it was the slot run or much earlier. And this is a character that has broken the fourth wall since the 70s, I think. Um,
I think it was 19. I'd say 1980s for She-Hulk.
yeah, the John Byrne era of She-Hulk. Um, and so like it kind of made me chuckle because I'm like, yeah, don't know anything about She-Hulk. And then, the third category is anything different we hate. And if it's not the way we like how the comics are, then we gonna hate. And,
Yeah, no, I get that. Again, I'm just more bringing it up in the fact of like it's this is in that same vein where it is a current topic and it's being touched on. It's delicate, but it's definitely a major part of the story.
Agreed.
So yeah, so again, where I'm coming from, comics have always had some political undertone or some kind of thing because you're talking about people.
Yes.
Um, so again, with that, I will go into American Dream number 3, issue 3. So cover date is August 2008. It was on the shelves June 4th, 2008. And the title is To Follow That Dream. Dream dodges a rain of bullets as she swims deeper to try and help the monster she pushed into the water. She'd only meant to subdue the creature, not for it to drown. She finds the monster and secures a rope onto him and helps pull the monster up. As most leave the site to avoid possibly getting busted by police, a few goons stay behind to wait for Dream to come back to the surface, to wait to see if Dream comes back to the surface. She does and easily takes the goons down. She takes the crystal creature back to the Avengers compound, and Catherine's findings on the monster shows that it's got the chemical composition to silicone, as I blurted out earlier. Um, and they can't feel anything at all, and is currently in suspended animation. So it's almost like they're not quite alive, but they're not dead. It's a really weird situation. They're almost like a golem thing, but they're not, and we'll go into that. All right. So yeah, so Thunderstrike talks to Dream about all this, as she had said in last issue that she wasn't going to go run after these creatures after Hill advised them not to, and they just talked about running off alone without her team. Saberclaw gets quippy about this, reminding Thunderstrike that American Dream is entitled to her own cases and having a private life. Something that he would know if he ever talked to a woman. Thanks, Saberclaw. All right. It's like you don't want to get into that conversation, but that happened. But anyway, Dream tells the boys enough. She's kind of had it. She doesn't need them fighting because she doesn't need to explain herself, nor does she need to be defended, especially not by Saberclaw. And she can't believe that Saberclaw is suddenly more sensible than Thunderstrike on this. Though it's not like Shannon has really had a private life since high school. She was obsessed in those days, devoted to becoming a super athlete like Captain America. Peggy introduces Shannon to Clint Barton, and at the Barton dojo, we see a young Brandon Cross, aka Freebooter. And from there, Shannon started training for her career as a costumed superhero. Elsewhere, the Revengers meet the maker of the crystal creatures, Silicon, and he makes it his business to acquaint himself with everyone who has fought the Avengers since his creatures encountered American Dream, and he's pleased to meet their acquaintance. Meanwhile, back at the Avengers compound, Maria Hill is practically yelling at Jarvis about the creature that they have on the compound. Jarvis tells them that, they talked to Lieutenant Grafton and, they were told that as soon as Hill's on site, that they can take the creature into their custody. Maria is really annoyed by this stunt and asks where she can find Dream. Maria heads to the athletic center and demands that Dream get down from the quote unquote jungle gym, as she calls it. Dream refuses to do that, saying Maria can say her piece as she can hear her just fine. Dream tells Maria to drop the tough guy act and talk to her, like actually talk to her, not command her. And basically kind of asks for them to work together. Maria tells Dream no and says that she's compromised national security, and if she doesn't back off, she will charge Dream and the Avengers for treason under the National Security Act. This rightfully disturbs Dream, and she calls Grafton to see what Hill has done to the NYPD because WTF, like Maria's on a power trip. And when Dream calls Grafton, we find out that Grafton got put on desk duty, and her commander won't even look her in the eye right now. And just in case Maria Hill is tapping her phone line, Hill can eat Grafton's shoe or kiss Grafton's shoe. Dream wonders if Hill is shutting people out so she can make or break her career with this finding. Either way, it reminds her of the choice that she made when she was a student at Barton's dojo. The special students, as it were, as he called them, had their graduation day where they were given costumes and code names by their sensei, essentially. Blue Kelso became Blue Streak. Brandon, as we know, became Freebooter. Erica Harkness is the Crimson Curse. And Shannon became Nomad. Shannon wasn't happy with Nomad. She didn't really want the name. She wanted to invoke the image of Captain America, something Clint was against, because putting the American flag on your body, all the stars and stripes, is basically putting a bullseye on your chest. But it's a risk Shannon wanted to take to continue Cap's legacy and dream for America. It's that determination to her dream that got her there to the Avengers compound and currently might destroy the Avengers as well. Unless, well, later we see that Jarvis is reading the Avengers' dreams resignation letter. The team quickly figures out that she is obviously just doing this to protect them from Hill and her wrath, and quickly decide that they need to find her to convince her to stay. Dream, however, is back on the crime scene to see Hill's men, though she's unsure if they're collecting evidence or destroying it. She sees the little bug from the Red Queen and follows it down into the sewers, thinking it's something spying on her from Maria Hill. She starts doubting this as it keeps leading her further down the sewer tunnels. And as Dream reaches to a point where 3 sewer tunnels connect, the crystal monsters show up to give Dream a fight for her life, all a part of the Revengers' plan. Dream knows she needs to find these creatures' weaknesses, but to do that, she needs to get some space between them before they wear her out. But these monsters keep coming into the sewer. There's too many of them because it's more and more and more, and obviously she can't subdue them. There's too many for her to get the space. She needs to get out of the sewer, but she can't. As the Revengers watch on, we see Dream getting buried by a pile of all of these crystal monsters attacking her. To be continued.
Dun dun dun. All right. I didn't push the button. Trying not to use the soundboard because I don't want Kelly to be mad at me. So, my thoughts on this are I like how each issue has been so jam packed, and I really like the way that the flashback scenes go,
Mm-hmm.
and how they expand on the small things we already knew. So I really like that element, is that we get that more that world building, and it's just goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the episode, where because DeFalco and Ron kind of had built out this universe, they're able to take these elements, and if you've never read these or never read this book or never read Annex, maybe you read Spider-Girl and you picked this up, or you picked up Amazing Spider-Girl, to flesh out that character, I thought was really well done. In my head canon, it's like they're the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Clint Barton is now Master Splinter. Since you mentioned Dojo,
Well, it's his dojo. It says that. But I mean, Barton is kind of like he's their teacher. He's their Mr. Feeney. He's their. He is kind of like Splinter. He's their mentor, and he's doing this under the guise. So they're his quote unquote special students. He's like Zordon. He's giving them the Power Ranger outfits. Now that they've been graduated his class, so to speak.
oh,
I know.
he's sad.
I wasn't trying to make you sad. It's very sad. The whole situation is very sad. And also don't trust TMZ. It's gross. Don't ever just
Oh, so that okay.
No. There's other things they've posted after about alleging it's gross. Just
Oh no.
don't deal with it. Just don't deal with it. Anyway, give that family peace, please. So anyway,
I think Harvey has. I can't remember his last name. The guy that owns TMZ has shown that he has no shame.
there's no shame. I mean, look at they
There's
single-handedly help Jamie Spears control Britney. So anyway,
Yeah.
going back to the story. I mean, Clint is their mentor, and it's great. I like this Clint. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this issue. I mean, I think I said most of what needs to be said
Mhm.
for this issue.
Right.
We get a little bit more backstory. We get kind of, again, Shannon has this thing where if she wants something, she's going to get it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts, and she will take on. she will take it on warts and all. In fact, she almost wants that. She almost wants the bullseye on her back. She because this is what's bringing in the impulsiveness and the she jumps in head first. There's no it's an off on situation.
Yes, take a drink.
Yeah.
Zorn references and Britney Spears and
Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. We
Like,
haven't found a way to mix in Neil's. So we haven't had a Transformers reference yet. Got to figure that out.
well, I mean, we could. I got one. So anyway,
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So again, like that's I don't really have much more to say other than once again, I as I've been stating, and two, these little bits and pieces of Shannon's personality, and I want to say because we mentioned it earlier, like we're seeing where she's not a, as I stated, perfect character, perfect person. She's got a lot of flaws, character flaws, which makes her feel more well-rounded. We're not seeing it necessarily in her actions as much as we're seeing it in her thoughts.
mm-hmm.
Which we see that with May, but we're used to that with May. And this is kind of the first time we're seeing it in Shannon, and we're seeing Shannon's thought bubbles and how she sees herself and how she thinks and her mind works. And so even though, we're getting these flashbacks and there's these little bits and pieces that are kind of showing you that she almost, she pretty much she's very much like, I'm just going to jump out this window and I'll figure out a way to fix this on the way down. Like that kind of impulsiveness. And that's been with her since after the accident, since after she, and it's a lot of fun because like it gets her in most of that impulsiveness is what's getting her in trouble. She's like, it's my determination that's going to cause issues with the Avengers. And it's like, it's your impulsiveness that's going to like have the Avengers be labeled as, under treason. But again, Maria Hill is also wrong in this situation. So it's just really funny because too, think about it. Like this is a very dramatic situation. She goes, how do I like make sure my friends don't go down with me? Oh, I know. Instead of not doing it or explaining it to them so they can create a plan to like work it out. No. I'm going to sign a resignation letter and head on.
Oh boy. Yeah,
like,
that is such a Shannon thing to do. Like that did make me laugh when I was reading. I was like, like I love how they just immediately were like, she's bullshitting. Like, come on.
That's another thing too. Is like the rest of the like, I think the one that like feels the most hurt by it is J2. But the first thing comes out of his mouth is, she's doing this because of Maria Hill. Like they all know it. They all know she didn't want to leave because that's their family, their family of misfits. And the whole thing is like, they're just like, yeah, she didn't want to leave. She must be doing this because she like just wants to go off. And again, like I said, the issue is not them going off on their own ever. It's the issue of I wanted to go off first.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the hero here.
This is not her story. It's Shannon's story. Damn it. All right. So speaking of moving on with the story.
Yeah.
Now in August 2008, August 16th, 2008 was the publishing date of issue number 4. Even a Dream Can Die is the title of the issue. And our issue begins with that big opening splash page of Shannon being drugged through by a couple of mindless goons that Silk Long has made. Or Silk Kong.
Silicon is what I assumed his name is because it's like silicone and kind of like Kang. Silicone together. Anyway, yeah, that's what I assume it is. I think it's Silicon, like Silly Kong.
Silly Kong. Okay, sorry. Neil is being Neil right now, so I'll throw that up in a minute.
Okay. Oh no. Let's get through this because we did spend like 30 minutes talking about the.
Yeah, let's get through this. Neil, quit distracting me. Okay, all right. So Silicon, the goons that Silicon's made. Drossman, Mr. Drossman has Dream's disc launchers, while Red Queen has has Shannon's shield. Shannon, she's being brought up kind of like, to meet the king or whatever. He's kind of got this giant throne. Kind of hilarious that he has, like, in his like science area, he decided to have himself a throne. Like, that just makes me laugh. Shannon, of course, is defiant, saying, and the villains kind of laugh her off. They're like, "Oh, you silly girl. We've already defeated you. You've been defeated." So Queen wants Shannon to be ripped limb from limb, but Silicon is like, "Nah."
The only one that's like, no, she's gonna get out of this.
You should rip her apart, limb from limb. And he's like, nah, you're fine. Just throw her in with the rest of the prisoners. Upon her very rude arrival, Queen gets a tour of the place, because that's what the supervillains do. And we learn Silicon's supervillain origin story. He was once a scientist that was doing an experiment, and it blew up in his face, causing a change.
Hold on. He was doing a scientist. Like, he was a scientist for Ziploc, although Ziplo's not mentioned, but it was definitely Ziploc.
The MC 982 equivalent of Ziploc, yes.
Yeah.
So,
that again, he still couldn't name to them.
Yeah, this is true. So, but tell me if this story sounds familiar. He was once a scientist doing an experiment that blew up in his face, causing a chain reaction. This reaction gave him super strength, and he learned he could manipulate it into his current appearance, because he had like a bunch of silicon things on his face. He's adjusted the formula, of course, because he went back to formula, just like Spider-Man 1. And clearly because he's insane, to merely have subservient drones do his bidding. But he's not a good marketer, so that's where the Red Queen comes in. She says that first they'll use it on Shannon, and then she'll destroy the Avengers. Meanwhile, speaking of those Avengers, back at Avengers HQ, Hill shows up demanding to know where our hero is, and she is pissed off. Obviously, she is stopped by Thunderstrike, Jarvis, and Grafton, who inform her that Dream isn't there, that she resigned, she's no longer part of the team, blah, blah, blah. And she leaves in a huff because, she's not one that likes to communicate, even in this universe, and especially in the Marvel universe, especially during this period of time. Anyway, I like Maria Hill in the MCU much better than I do in the 616. Anyway, obviously, so she was last seen at a warehouse, which Maria had kind of let slip. Then Strike takes this information and races back to the control room, where he informs all the active Avengers what's going on. And which has our first time seeing Mayday, yay! As well as Stinger and
her whole four scenes.
Yeah.
Her whole 4 scenes, and she says nothing.
Yeah, she says nothing the entire. I noticed that. So,
well, she does say her spidey senses tingling, and then Thunderstrike says, "I'll alert the media."
Oh, that.
Yeah. They're all a bunch of sarcastic meanies to each other.
My senses tingling. We'll alert the media. No, you should pay attention, Thunderstrike. You should, and he should know this by now. Anyway.
Yeah. We'll talk about it
later. Meanwhile, Dream is remembering the last time she ran the quote-unquote gauntlet, a challenge created by Hawkeye that she failed at pretty badly, and it just so happened to be the day that we briefly saw in issue 4 of A-Next, when the world learned of the Avengers. They started kind of down, but Dream pressed on, saying that they have to keep going, they have to start training again, and they come up with the name along the way of the Dream Team. And then we get back to the present, where she finally gets her boot close enough to her hands, which she uses to activate a small compartment inside her boot, which has a knife and a lockpick set, because she's like the Boy Scouts, she is always prepared. She picks the lock to free everyone in the adjacent cell, asking for Marco. Marco then appears, and Shannon convinces them to all come with her. It's time to escape, but let her be the one leading from the front. Meanwhile, there's some pretty blatant misogyny with 2 guards talking about how maybe we should go visit the hot blonde later. And she takes the time to let her know, let them know how she feels about that particular situation by
It's
literally,
gross.
yeah, it's very gross, and kicks them in the back of the head as they should have been.
Yeah,
Getting,
well, and also insults their hygiene
oh yeah, that's true.
and
Doesn't,
and kind of their intelligence a little bit.
yeah, that's fair. Which I mean, fair.
Yeah.
They're Neanderthals, and it's fine.
I mean, well, they were talking about
Naughty,
gross things.
very
Doing yeah.
doing very gross, naughty things that that we were not going to talk about because
Nope.
kidding.
Nope.
Anyway, Shannon then goes take on the baddies. Tells Marco that hey, go be with your lady love, but he makes the decision to stay behind and feeling like he kind of owes her. So an alarm goes off because there's hundreds of people leaving this facility, which obviously, and Silicon is like we'll send them some crystal soldiers to take them out. Meanwhile, across town at a research facility, a captive crystal man, a silicone man, is being looked at, hoping to be destroyed by the government agency. But just when you think that the government agency has control of the situation, it wakes up and it starts attacking. So Maria wants to know how to stop it, and basically the scientist that she was talking to was like, "Look, it's practically indestructible, et cetera, and maybe we should just call the Avengers and the FF." This does not excite Maria at all. She's more than a little annoyed. So we then come back to Dream being confronted by the mercenaries, who choose not to fire upon her because of the fact that like their boss was nearby and they didn't want to hit him or hit.
I think well, so they say bosses. So because again, he's made out of the silicone that apparently is like fairly indestructible, but they didn't want to hit. I assume it was going to be the Red Queen and Ion Man because they were his guests.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, and they're eventually defeated. So the Drosh Man is like, "Oh, I get to use my disc launchers that I confiscated." He's like, "I'm going to use these things that I don't know what the name is." And then Shannon's like, "They're called disc launchers. We should have used that to, for marketing purposes for selling toys." But what are you going to do? Basically, he ineffectively uses these disc launchers and gets knocked out very quickly. Dream grabs the gauntlets and the discs and reloads very quickly. And Red Queen's like, good, I want you at your full strength. And she's like standing there holding the shield, right? With Red Queen and Ion Man. Queen, having that shield, decides to attack. They start throwing blasts at her. She keeps ducking and dodging as she's off to do, especially now that she's gotten better and better. It's causing a gauntlet for her to run, but she's gotten a lot better with practice and quickly dispatches of the duo, telling Queen that maybe if she knew what she was doing, she could have used the shield to deflect her attack, but she didn't, so she gets knocked out. And then we get to Silicon. It shows up, and he's very excited that his first superhero battle is going to be with someone so formidable. Shannon's like, just give up now, and we'll move on. But he's like, oh, no. And so then he decides to grow, aka transform into his final form, which is a big, giant, hulking monster. And that is how the issue ends, to be continued. Kelly, your thoughts?
All right. It's pretty, once again, straightforward, as the story is. But I don't know. I think this is probably my favorite issue out of all of them. I really just love like this part of the issue. I love the high stakes that Shannon always manages to get back on her feet. Um, you know, the silicon once again, the silicon's statement about how homeless and illegal immigrants are the perfect subject to lobotomize because he's lobotomizing these people. He's changing them. Because I mean that was a word that this serum effectively like turns their brain off into these silicone soldiers. That no one would miss these people, which is very diabolical and cruel, and probably one of like it's a very he is very classic villain, very classic dangerous villain. But he comes off a lot suave, like he's a lot more three-dimensional than most that are like that. Um, but it's a very diabolical person. Like I don't like him. um,
He's
especially
very,
yeah,
very evil.
yeah. But like I said, it's done in a very three-dimensional manner. Like the character is fully formed. It's not just a black and white situation.
Yeah.
Um, but especially as we've seen throughout these issues that, no, these people aren't, you know, invisible. People do miss them. They do have families who love and care for them, and they're looking for them by any means that they can find. And this and then of course then I wrote like this almost makes me never want to use a Ziploc bag now. But now that they also make eco-friendly bags that are made from silicone, this like slightly lines up in a weird way. Because that's like almost like he was creating the reusable eco-friendly bags and that turned into a monster. But again, it's like I said, this whole issue, like this whole mini series, is showing you, that people are people, and there are a lot of people's viewpoints that do see illegal immigrants, homeless people, these like downtrodden people, or these people that are
Trust me.
almost kind of hidden and quiet. They think that they don't matter, but they still have family. They still have people that care for them. They're still human beings.
Yeah.
And, they're not props or things you can use for your own bidding.
I was recently for the Thanksgiving holiday. I was in El Paso, and so I saw some of the human struggle firsthand, just being that close to the border. And it's not an easy situation, and there's a lot of discussion and a lot of talk, and it's not something that's gotten better with
And
time.
I don't think it will, unfortunately. And we're not the only country that deals with stuff like this either.
Oh, Europe has been dealing with humanitarian crisis, not
It,
just
it's
before the war in Ukraine. I mean, even the amount of migration that was occurring as far back as the Arab Spring and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and the amount of refugees that were coming into to all
it,
across Europe.
it's a human issue. The issue is you have and you have to see it from the perspective of these people wouldn't be risking their lives to find a new life if there wasn't a reason to.
And they
Um,
wouldn't be trusting these people that are using, much like how our villain in this issue is using.
is
The,
using them. And
there's
and two, he's playing on it because we speak about the earlier issue where he heard of a fast track to citizenship, which is what he wanted. He wanted to have a legal means to stay.
yeah.
So he goes and tries to find it. This man is literally kidnapping people. Like, I mean, it's it's kind of like human trafficking, but a little bit different. Because he's turning them into these people, but like, and he's the sinister aspect. I mean, he's literally lobotomizing them
I mean, he's
for their
lobotomized,
plot.
and he's turning them into metahumans, so it would be
Metahumans.
trafficking. I mean, at worst,
Well, it's my thing is like they're not changing hands. He's
right.
just creating goons, but like it's a very similar aspect because this does actually happen a lot.
Well,
Um,
but you could argue that if Queen and Ion Man got further into the plans,
it would have been
would have come into that.
it would have been have you watched the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special where they're like, we got you a human, and Peter Quill is like, this is human trafficking. No.
Dude, uh, and by the way, if you've not, the day we record this, December 1st, they just released the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
Volume 3.
Yeah.
So, but yes, go watch the holiday special. It is fantastic. Minor spoilers
It's,
if you've not seen it.
yeah, but again, it's um it- like I said, this is a really dark, like Shannon has found a very dark situation. Like what was already kind of a mystery in more likely, because a lot of times, at least like the way I read it at the first, oh, he's gone missing because he probably got deported. And as we see them all kind of roped together, we're thinking that this is a government operation to ship them back,
And
but it's not.
especially with the way Maria acts,
Is acting. Yeah.
it
And so
definitely you feel like that they were involved somehow, but they're not. They stumbled across the same thing and they're trying to keep it hush hush.
exactly. And so it is again, it's a very, we're finding it to be very, a lot darker than what we originally thought.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's oof. Like, and she did a justice, and of course, like Marco, like we kind of see like why Sofina would be looking to get her fiance back. Like Marco's not just gonna run. He he has to stand and fight too. Like he can't just let this stand. Or just be a victim. He's gonna come back, and he's gonna make sure Shannon has the backup she needs. We'll get to see more of that. So yeah, so do you have any like last thoughts before I go into 5?
No, I think we should go into 5 and
All right.
roll.
All right. So American Dream issue 5 info. So cover date is September 2008, and it was on the shelf July 2nd, 2008. So just before the July 4th holiday. Um, The title is The Dream and the Nightmare. So, American Dream battles it out with Silicon and his goons and the Revengers. And Dream knows that she's outnumbered, but she's got to protect the innocents, like the people she just freed from Silicon's prison. Marco, Sofina's fiance, comes rushing in to give La Americana some proper backup, although it's not true proper, but he's trying. And we appreciate the effort. He might not have the skills or the experience to battle these superpowered beings, but he feel like he could not look his fiance in the eyes if he just left Dream to fight alone. Meanwhile, the Avengers are in the sewer tunnels that lead to Silicon's hideout. This is where Spider Girl tries to warn them that her spider sense is going off, and then they all get snippy because that's how our ANEX team is. Uh, they are tracing Dream's steps, and the closer they get, Saberclaw can smell her peppermint bath soap. Blue Streak zips ahead of the team as she hears commotion coming around the bend, and our bend. I don't know why I wrote bin. She finds the kidnapped men being trampled by the crystal creatures. So Thunderstrike cries out, "Avengers assembled!" Avengers assemble, and they go into helping the kidnapped people. So security calls Mr. Dossman, and the lead goon, Mr. Dossman's the lead goon, and he tells them that he can't sacrifice any more people to go see what's going on in the tunnels until they catch American Dream. Dream tells Marco to stand behind her while she figures out a way to shatter these monsters, but Marco advises that these creatures were once his friends. They were people. So Dream says she needs to figure out a way to stop them then without hurting them. Ion Man finds this wimpy and a weakness to American Dream, so much so that he's going to flash fry her, because this is his way of flirting. She uses Cap's shield to dodge the blast, and the blast hits the shield to ricochet into Ion and sending him downward. Dossman asks his goons to repeat what he said about the Avengers, as he can't understand them through the comm link, and with all the fighting going on in the lair, giving Dream the perfect opportunity to knock the man out. This caused the Red Queen to lose her patience. Not that she had much. She's over it. And then to the Red Queen, to Hope, Hank and Janet Pym died because of the Avengers, and their death and her life without them is not just on the original Avengers' hands, but the new team as well. Any legacy involving the Avengers has the Pym's family, like has her parents' blood on their hands, in her eyes. Like just this is her viewpoint. She's not going to change. To her, her parents' death is 100% caused by the existence of the Avengers. And that is why she wants them gone. This is her main motivation. Um, and she doesn't want honor. She just wants vengeance. She just wants revenge. Justice is out the window. Just straight up revenge. Shannon tries to tell her that they died as heroes. They sacrificed themselves to protect the world from a monster, and what Hope is doing is dishonoring them. Shannon understands, however, where Hope is coming from. Shannon lost her parents too. They were her heroes. They wanted to make a difference in the world. And she chose to be that difference, to be their dream, their hope for a better tomorrow. She punches Hope Pym out during this speech and is left with just one more bad guy, Silicon. And we've apparently made it to the YouTube era of these comics because Silicon makes a YouTube reference and says that he wishes he could have recorded that speech and posted it. So, we are catching up with technology here. But Silicon has more pressing concerns as he's grabbed Marco as a hostage. Meanwhile, the Avengers are still battling our crystal monsters, and the National Security Force. And at the National Security Force Testing Center, which I guess is what SHIELD is being called now, Maria can't get a hold of a blasted Avenger, just as she needs them. Which, I mean, she needs a healthy, and whatever. And I was like, I mean, she needed a healthy mouthful of crow after everything she's done in the MC2 so far. So, am I supposed to feel bad for her? Not really. She can handle it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So in Silicon's lair, he challenges Dream to sacrifice herself for Marco and lets Silicon transform her into a crystal monster herself. Dream chooses to make it a challenge, however, by offering a duel, one-on-one, winner take all. They battle and talk about their similarities when it comes to basically being a workaholic and making their work their ambitions their whole life. This chatting gives Dream the opportunity to bust into a new room, a control room, and Dream chooses to throw the shield into the command center, freezing all of the crystal monsters who can no longer get woken up from their lobotomized robot-esque state. Dream climbs up Silicon's big form and starts doing everything to force her shield through Silicon's head straight into his skull, threatening to kill him if he doesn't call this off. Since she keeps going, Silicon starts to panic and he reverts back to a normal size to get her off his back. And his goons left standing start pointing their weapons towards Dream. But thankfully, now that all of the silicone bad guys are frozen, not that they're bad guys, but you get what I mean. Blue Streak only needs a second to take the guns away. The cavalry is here. And as Grafton arrests the men, Silicon lies there on the floor in pain from the damage that the shield did to his head, and asks Dream, would she have really done it? Would she have really killed him? And he needs to know. But to Shannon, why does it matter now? 1 week later at the Avengers compound, Shannon is in normal clothes for once, and they actually look fairly newer. Looks like an Abercrombie pink polo. And talks to Thunderstrike as they walk the halls. Hill has taken Silicon's men into custody, and Hill has given the victims of Silicon's crimes citizenship in exchange for their silence and cooperation, as well as having SHIELD scientists work on a way to find a cure for the creatures. Sophina and Marco are getting married in 2 weeks, and Kevin asks Shannon if she's got a date to the wedding, as well as asking her to go to lunch. But Shannon has plans with Grafton. They are going to a pro-immigration rally and then shopping for clothes to wear to the wedding. But Kevin shouldn't feel too down. Shannon will be back. It's not the last that we've seen of her. The end for now. And that's it.
Big old splash page, really great art, Todd Knock art, and if you're using the end for now, that's the last thing you see. So, really, I enjoyed it. Great resolution. you don't know if she was going to go through with it, and that's the great part of it. Is that
I don't think she knew ultimately.
I think she knew that she was going to do whatever it took to stop him,
Yes.
and he called her bluff, and he didn't know, and so therefore, he stood down. And Vinkman does ask the pertinent question: will he ever have lunch with Shannon? In my head canon, yes.
Yeah, but in actual like canon, I don't
No.
know. But at the same time, I've only read like Captain America Corps once, so like I don't recall Shannon ever having any kind of little backstory. Like she's just there to help. And
I
that's
have the first issue of Captain America Corps.
we are going to talk about it. I do have it in the list because it's an MC2
Yeah.
situation.
So
Um,
I do remember her just. I remember the plot of it because it's written by the great Roger Stern,
yeah.
and it has like four different Captain Americas from four different timelines.
Hey, she's a Captain America.
She's a Captain America. You have Bucky
Her,
Cap.
it's five, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Five or
Uh,
six. Um,
yeah. So you have like Steve from like right before he got thawed, Steve right after, I think, Bucky Cap, Captain America from the future, like from the very distant future, like 2099 era, and then you have MC2
different.
Shannon in
Yeah.
there. So
Which we do, and see, this is what I love too. It's like we do see her again, but we don't actually see her again until that part, until Captain America. Because I think she's in the background. I think in some spec, but
yeah,
we don't see her for the rest of Amazing.
yeah. The only thing I could think of is maybe they had like some sort of thing in the 25th issue, but I can't remember.
Yeah, which we'll talk about. But of course, the 25th issue happened before this. What I'm talking about, like this splash page.
Yes, yes.
Um, it's just again, the way I have to start and stop these things. Which of course this doesn't mean, this didn't really have any kind of super effect.
No.
But it is, you know, we did this based on like when it came because it came out um in between these Spider Girl issues. So 19 and 20.
It actually, I think this issue came out the same month as 20, like you said. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
Uh,
like the way and the way we fit that ended up working out perfectly. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute, but like what we're going to be doing next episode. But this is our
yeah.
last year.
Mm-hmm.
I have also been requested to throw this on the screen,
Oh
and
no. What did Zach do? Or not you? What did Neil do? Sometimes I just assume you. Oh,
it's you strangling me for those that are listening to the audio edition, and I don't know.
it's no, it's an Evangelion reference. It's the end of Evangelion. Um, yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand the
Don't.
reference. Then you're strangling.
It's an anime reference. It's a weeb reference. You don't. It's okay. But basically, it's the end of the world, and I'm strangling you. I just I'm not Asuka. You're not Senji. I don't like it because they're not those characters. Because the characters are messed up.
Yeah.
Uh, I just end of Evangelion bugs me.
So
Uh,
so failed. You did not make Kelly chuckle except in awkwardness. So
no, it's more. I was horrified. I've been re-traumatized because I got flashbacks to watching the end of Evangelion. Um, because you should never Evangelion is something you take in little bites. You don't marathon it in a weekend. And I did that. You don't do that. You don't do
okay.
that. So yeah. So anyway, I no no. Neil is apologizing in the comments. It's fine. It's fine. Just no, no, no. I like to keep Evangelion and Spider Girl in very separate areas of my brain.
She
Anyway,
has compartments in her brain, and she has a big compartment for MC2 and a little compartment for the other thing, and like just don't mix the compartments.
true.
Venkman
Uh,
in the says that she's strangling me in the photo because I won't stop using the soundboard.
fair.
Fair.
The soundboard caused the end of the world.
Okay, all right. We haven't had nearly the amount of problems with the soundboard.
Yeah, well, again, I like it being used tastefully.
Of course. And
Tastefully doesn't mean using it every time.
well, I mean, I have a sound effect for almost everything.
Yeah, but
I
not
even have,
everything can always be a soundboard.
no, not everything can. The my new favorite is I did clip Steve Rogers from
Oh,
Avengers.
I understood that reference.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I was about to say which one. And I was like, no, I should know this. But yes, so there is that, and then yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on this series? Because it is the first time you read it.
Yeah, listen, I mentioned it at the beginning. Todd Knox art is really, really good. I think he does a really, really good job. And I think that DeFalco leans into his strengths. If I didn't have Ron Friends to draw MC2, I wouldn't mind Todd Knock being on the bench, or if it's not Pat or Ron, those are my two first choices. But Todd is like third guy on the bench that I would say,
But
I for who?
Lim,
Oh yeah, okay, he's fourth. Okay, so sorry, Todd, you got knocked out to fourth because Ron Lim, yeah, Ron, the two Rons and
just,
Pat,
justice
uh,
for J2.
just
Okay.
hashtag justice for J2. So again, really really good. Great coloring, great artwork. It's bombastic. It's again plays into the strengths of Todd Knock. I like how you could easily turn Shannon's design into boob socks, and he avoids that.
Okay.
It's not as
There's only a few artists who embrace boob socks.
I mean, yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, boob socks, like look at Earth X Spider Man and see Mayday.
They look like their stuff is painted on them because there's no fabric in the middle here. And that's why I've themed them boob socks. But in general, yeah, the whole thing though is it's a good. I really like. I mean, I
It's a,
enjoy the series. It's a great little mini. Like I said, you get a lot of good characterization with Shannon. One of my favorite things is the subtlety of seeing her process her flaws. She almost justifies it with herself that she's doing like it's almost she is a little self-righteous and she is stubborn. Um, but this is where we have fun. This is where we have fun with the Avengers in MC2 because they're all very, very human characters. And
yes,
I enjoy seeing Shannon's story. This is Shannon's story. She's not just a side character, in the book. She's not just a leader. She is front and center, and we see her life, almost lack of a life, because she's thrown everything into her work. And she learned I don't know if it's a lesson, but like we see her grow a little bit and realize that like she does need to have a balance and live her life a little bit and not just always make it about the greater good.
you know, it talks about the balance and getting to see this perspective. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, A-Next kind of give you a little bit into Cassie. Obviously, May is you know, got a lot of insight. But to get her insight and see how she ticks, and you know, it kind of retroactively, when you go back and read these earlier appearances and you read her appearances, like even in Spider Girl and her interactions with May, you get a feeling of sympathy now, and that's what makes this, like, you empathize with what her mindset is. You can kind of understand why she acts the way she does.
Well, too, we understand that too, but they've been going back to it, like when they butted heads, and this is even like when Shannon was butting heads with Cassie, when Shannon is questioning May. Again, it's all coming from this place of she's okay with sacrificing herself. Shannon's okay with running off because she's justified it to herself.
Mhm.
But everybody else needs to adhere to the greater good mentality. Everyone needs to go with the rules, like because she's, the leader, like she is living and breathing Avengers and everything that the Avengers are supposed to stand for and do. And we see her, like, I think that's really the main growth here, is that she's really kind of coming down to, like, okay, but who is American Dream? Who is Shannon? Because I've given my entire life into this, my dream, but what do I really stand for? And we've seen little bits and pieces of that, but now we really see it in her own,
Mhm.
and again, as I've made the joke, they're all they're all impulsive, and I mean this in the best way. They're all impulsive idiots, and they're headstrong and they're stubborn. And how they work, we still don't know because they're dysfunctionally functional. But we kind of get to see Shannon's perspective of that, where, like, in the past, she almost seemed like she was the one that had it together. And now we know, no, not really.
Yeah.
She's just as human as the rest of them.
Uh,
But that's what makes her a great legacy to Steve Rogers, is her humanity and
yes.
her willingness to do whatever it takes.
Agreed. 100%. So, looking at the last bit of our notes, we don't have any emails or reviews.
Didn't see
So,
that. So no voicemails,
no
no.
voicemails. So,
All right.
so give us a preview of what we got coming up next, there, Kel.
Yeah, so new year, brand new May. Get ready for when we get back because we'll be kicking into high gear as we see the next big story for May start in brand new May. We'll be going over issues of Amazing Spider-Girl 20 through 24, which is 5 issues, so it's another big episode. But we'll be kicking off through all 5 issues in the brand new May story because there's really no way that I could ever break that apart. So until then, I hope everyone has a spectacular holiday, and we will see you next month. As we kind of said during the beginning, we are actively talking about 2023. I do have my timeline. So we're gonna basically get all the way down to Spider-Geddon. If things go to plan, which they might not go to plan, but we also have couple. We have at least one special thing for you guys if all things go to plan, and it'll be really exciting. But I do think before we go, we should ask, since we do have a little bit of an extended break,
Mhm.
slight extended break, if you guys could please like, share, comment, review, send us emails, give us voicemails, send us stuff that you want answers to. Send us your headcanons, and let's try and get this really active because, like, we are going into, honestly, what a lot of our quote unquote newer fans, not from the message boards, people that missed the message boards because they were younger, this is what they got into. They started with Spider-Verse. They started with, you know, different situations. So, like, we're starting to kind of get into that. We're starting to kind of tie our Mayday, our what I call the original run. of this character, uh, we're starting to end it, and we're starting to have to reconcile, as we were talking about earlier, different people's takes on this character in this world. So definitely, like, start
So
helping us out here. Like,
I get,
let's chat. Let's actually have conversations
yeah.
and see what we can go with it.
You can always go to r/Spider Girl. You can go to the Discord on our front page of spidey-dude.com, and it has the Maydays Hangout section. You can hang out there, talk about it. Come follow us on the Discord. That's where you'll get site updates. You can always go to spidey-dude.com. So a couple of things. One, all the audio editions will be out between now and the end of the year. Since we are going to be on an extended break, we're going to have everything out. I think we're maybe one episode behind. So we'll get these previous two episodes out to you guys. We're going to get, and if we get a lot of feedback, if we get a ton of feedback between now and the end of the year, if me and Kelly can squeeze in some time, we'll do a feedback, centric episode or something like that, or we'll do that next year. Somehow, some way. So just give us the feedback, and then that way it breaks up the reviews too, because like we enjoy doing these reviews, we enjoy doing these talks, but it's nothing without, and we love the live interaction. Don't misunderstand. So those of you that watch us live,
Yeah. It's just I want to hear from everybody.
yeah,
That's my thing.
yeah. So I know we have people that watch this show on YouTube, after the fact, after the stream. So let us know. Leave comments in these episodes. We'll reply to them. Give it a like, give it a share, give it a if you're not subscribed, please subscribe.
All of it.
Hit the notification bell if you want to get updates on all the stuff. The amount of content that I'm working on between now and the end of next year, I think, is going to be a lot. And some of the ideas that we've got coming, and some of the stuff we've got on Patreon that we're gonna continue to actively develop. I can't believe that we're almost through ASG. Like, that's mind blowing.
We're 10 issues away.
We're 10 issues away from the end of that part of the run. And then we got the Spectacular Spider-Girl stuff, and then we end we have the end, which for a lot of people is the end. There's nothing else after, but which is probably the appropriate thought.
I think that's the thought on the. But actually, like, side note, keep making this longer than it should be. But the side note is there was something said in one of the interviews with Tom and Ron, where I believe Mr. Friends said that, well, what if, because a part of the Spider-Verse thing when they wrote that story was, well, what if this was maybe a different MC2? And so I think that a lot of the Marvel Unlimited story, that's kind of the way I see it in my head. It's another MC2. So while everybody else is like, oh, this is my MC2, it's not. It's a little bit different again. But maybe we can have an MC2 multiverse.
I did enjoy the fact that Nick Lowe pushed back on that suggestion. It was actually in that other show, the interview we did. And yeah, they specifically had wrote it the way they wrote it because they wanted to have reasonable doubt.
Yeah. Well, there's also a few canon stories. Like Vinkman even wrote up, because because it's not canon, I didn't write it in the list, and we will get to it at some point, but it'll be in a separate situation, where there is the young Spider-Man family, the thing that normally would have like mix of stories and comics. There is a small comic with more 616 Aranya and Spider-Girl, and a more 616-ish Peter. Kind of another Spider-Verse story before Spider-Verse, even though somebody likes to say that they created Spider-Verse.
John Simper?
No, different person. But anyway, So the whole thing is
Uh,
so weird. I'm sorry. Sorry, we spent too much time with our Avengers. I am now snippy, sassy. But the whole thing is yeah, no, so like we will talk about that later, but like I missed it because it's not considered canon. And I think that that's kind of the situation we're dealing with is when you have things like the multiverse and you have different people taking characters, and like I said, depending on what time they have, who's telling them to write so and include so and what, you're going to get some differences to continuity. Wow, that's not a word. Continuity,
continuity.
continuity. It's 11:30. Um, sorry, but
Tired.
yes. So yeah. So the whole thing though is yeah. These things are just different, and I think there can be a space where there's these differences, but it also doesn't make it to me. That's kind of why I'm like, this story is not canon. Don't say that it's in this world because it's not our 982. But of course, we don't have anything that's doing nine. Oh, no, we do. I just realized that. My brain can't speak words, but I have a thought because in the current end of Spider-Verse story that's going on, even though it's definitely not the end, we do have a side world because we have the draft world
Yes.
that they're currently in, and it's outside the web, and that's where the non-canon stories can lie. So there you go. If this thing ends where like they just start counting all the non-canon stories as different worlds, and there's now like a 982-2-3, we kind of win, like, in a way. Um,
The man that destroyed, crap somehow saves it. I guess.
yeah,
I guess it's.
I doubt it, but
It,
again, I'm just saying that like there's places for all of this. Is my long-winded rant about that, but
100%. So, yeah, let's, without further ado, Neil agrees that there's nothing happened after the end. Definitely.
no.
So, all right, let's wrap this episode up. Gotta mention our patrons at patreon.com/SpideyDude Network. Once again, gotta mention our patrons: Venkman, Scott, Phoenician, Greg, Kale, Georgia, Jessica, Catherine, Cindy, Jurgen, and the two newest ones, Kilgar, and I just blanked on the other one because I accidentally deleted the screen. Anyway, so you'll hear their names at the on the audio edition. But if you're listening to this episode on the video, thank you for watching. If you're watching us live on YouTube, if you're listening to us in the audio edition, thank you for listening. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review and let us know how we're doing on your favorite podcasting catcher. Leave us an email. You can always leave email addresses at makemindmayday@gmail.com, or you can leave an email at spideyduderadionetwork@gmail.com. If you want your voice on the show, you can always have the phone number is 818-925-6631. That is the phone number for all of the Spidey Dude Radio Network. Just state what show you're calling about and what you want to talk about. Keep it under 3 minutes, otherwise it will cut you off. So if you happen to leave a couple voicemails, I will stitch them together and we'll play them live on the program. And maybe one day we'll do some live callers and we'll use that as a call-in line. So you can always go to r/SpiderGirl if you want to talk more about Spider-Girl. You can always go to our Discord, discord.com. Go to spidey-dude.com, the little Discord icon in the top right-hand corner, or you can find the link if you're using the mobile version, on the drop-down menu. So, got some great shows here on the Spidey Dude Radio Network. Got to mention them before I get out of here as well. Before we wrap this up, we got Voices from the Area Gargoyles podcast. We have Clone Saga Chronicles, Spectacular Radio, the Sal Buscema Era podcast, and the newest one, Books of X, as well as the Spidey Dude Experience. But Books of X is our Patreon first show. We got so much more stuff coming to you on the Patreon. as well as ASM Classics. Got some new episodes dropping to you very soon. So if you want to know more information, go over to spidey-dude.com, makeminemayday.com, or patreon.com/Spidey Network. Thanks again, and happy holidays if you're listening to us over the holiday. Hope you have a happy and safe holiday season. We'll talk to you next time here on, in 2023, here on Make Mine Mayday. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.